Okay, today we're going to talk about word problems, which we all love, with multiplication or division of integers. Remember, integers are just positive and negative whole numbers, like this. Right? -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's just there are not fractions or decimals. Integers are just whole numbers and their opposites. All right, so we have to answer the question. Note that a change can be an increase or a decrease. For an increase, use a positive number, and for a decrease, use a negative number. All right, a tram moved downward. Downward's going to be a decrease. That's going to be negative, right? It moved downward 81 meters in 9 seconds at a constant rate. What was the change in the tram's elevation each second? So let's just start what we do know. We know 81 meters in 9 seconds. So we can say 81 meters per 9 seconds. And one way that we can write per is by putting it in a fraction. So I could write out in one line, I could write 81 meters per 9 seconds, or I can write it like a fraction, 81 meters over 9 seconds. So meters per second is my unit. Okay, so 81 over 9 is the number that we're dealing with, and I bet you know how to simplify that. Every time we draw a line like this, we mean division. The word per actually means division. And so 81 over 9 means 81 divided by 9, which in this case is a nice whole number. It's 9. But I still have the same unit, meters per second. And so I can say 9 meters per second. But per second, we're talking about per 1. And so notice that we could just say 9, and we're talking about 9 meters is the top part per 1 second. So we're going to say 9 meters. So the answer that we're going to write in here is 9. But remember that we were decreasing, so we're actually going to say -9 for downward 9 meters. Okay, the B part says, in a lab, a substance was heated by 2 degrees Celsius each hour for 10 hours. What was the total change in temperature? Okay, it's being heated, so it's going up, right? So that's going to be a positive number. And we have 2 degrees Celsius each hour for 10 hours. Okay, so that's 2 for each of those hours. So we need to say 2 times 10 hours, 2 degrees times 10 hours, because we're going to get 2 degrees for each hour. So 2 degrees the first one, it'll be 4 degrees the second, and 6 degrees the third. And so we're actually going to end up with 20 degrees change, right? 20 degrees change. There are some other ways we could probably write that out. Maybe we want to try writing 2 degrees Celsius per 1 hour times 10 hours. And this is pretty cool. We can actually do this. This is 10 hours over 1. And I don't want to confuse you, but this is really great to see that units actually cancel just like common factors. It's a cool thing. And then we're going to do 2 times 10 to equal 20. And notice that degrees is the unit that we had left over, degrees Celsius. This was plus. I don't think Alex wants you to write the plus, but I'm not totally sure. So you can write plus 20 degrees Celsius, or I think it's okay to just write 20 degrees Celsius because we always assume plus right there. All right. Let me get rid of this screenshot, and we should probably look at one more of these. All right. Christine owns 9 shares of a certain stock. Yesterday, the total value of her shares went down. Well, it's going to be negative by $90. What was the change in value for each share? The total value of her shares went down by $90, but she has 9 shares. So we're going to divide that because $90 is spread out over those 9 shares. Each share went down 90 divided by 9, which is $10 for each. So we're going to say negative 10, down $10 for each share. I was trying to think if there's another way we want to write that out with the units. Maybe. I might come back to that in a second. A private club grew by 9 members each week for 72 weeks. What was the total change in the club's size? So we're going to go 9 members each week. So the first week we're going to have 9, and the second week we're going to have 18, and the third week we're going to have 27, and we're going to keep going for 72 weeks. That's a long time. What was the total change? We're going up because it's growing, so it's going to be a positive number. So we're going to have 9 members per 1 week times 72 weeks. I like to think of this as over a 1, and then we're going to cross cancel the weeks and multiply 9 times 72, which equals, let's see, 18 and 63, 64, 648 members. Make sure that that is correct. I did that in my head with no paper, which isn't wise for me. 63, 64. Okay, so we went up, and it's plus 648. If the ALEKS program makes you write a plus, go ahead. Otherwise, I think it's probably just going to assume that 648 is fine. Okay, the other thing I want to talk about today is operations with absolute value. And so remember that absolute value is just talking about what is the distance. In fact, what is the distance from 0? So if we're thinking about a number line, and this is 0, and I have maybe a 3 over here and a negative 3 over here, the distance right here, this distance is 3, right? And this distance, let's not even worry about which direction we're going, is 3, right? It measures the same distance. Over here, we just happen to call this negative 3 because we're talking about the direction. So when I'm talking about absolute value, I don't care about the direction. It's just the distance. If I ask you, how far do you live from school, or how far do you come when you go from home to school, and you tell me 8 miles, and I tell you how far is it when you go from school to home, you're still going to tell me 8 miles because distance is never negative. So the absolute value signs, these little lines like this, whatever is in here, we're just going to write that as a positive because we just want to talk about the absolute value, the absolute distance. So let's see how we work these problems. This first one says the absolute value of negative 2 plus 7. So I want to look at what's inside here. The absolute value, these lines that are right here, tells me that this is actually just 2. The absolute value of negative 2, let's say it was here, and 2 is here. The absolute value is just 2. It just is, how far is this? Just a 2. So we do 2 plus 7, and then it just is like normal math after that. 2 plus 7 is 9. So I'm going to type a 9 for that one. This one right here is a little different. The absolute value of negative 2 plus 7. In this case, Absolute value signs work a little bit like parentheses. So we have to do this whole thing inside here before we can do like this and just take off the absolute value signs. So -2 plus 7 is 5. Remember, I like to think about a little competition here. I got 7 positive guys and I got 2 negative guys. And when they go to battle together, if they're equal 1 to 1, 2 of them get canceled out and the positive guys win by 5. There's 5 more of these than these, and so they cancel each other out. And what I have is actually the absolute value of 5 after I do this math. Okay, so now that there's only one number inside here, I can take off those because the absolute value of 5 is 5. The absolute value of -5 is 5 also, but that will be that. Okay, let's see if we can't get one more of those. All right, the absolute value of -4 absolute value of -4 plus 7 equals what? Absolute value of -4 is just 4, right? The absolute value of 4. There's only one number in here, so I can just think about it. The absolute value of -4 is 4. You take off the negative, plus 7 equals what? Well, 4 plus 7 equals 11. So the answer to this one is 11. Here we have the absolute value of -4 plus 7 equals. Well, we have to do all of this in here till it's one number before we can take off those signs. Okay, I've got -4, 4 negatives, combining with 7 positives. Well, they don't like each other because they're different. They're doing a little tug of war across 0. These 4 negatives are going to kill off 4 of these positives, and what's left behind is 3 positives. Okay, now we can take off the absolute value signs because the absolute value of 3 is just 3. And the answer to this one is going to be 3. That's what you're going to type in. All right, let me know if you have any questions about that.